Have you ever found yourself scratching again and again the same spot on your skin? Maybe it was your shin or the middle of your back. Maybe it came at night just as the world was quieting down. You told yourself it was dry skin or maybe that soap you changed last week. But deep down, something didn't feel quite right. There's a strange truth about growing older. Our bodies begin to whisper, not shout. The signs don't always come in thunderous pain or dizzy spells. Sometimes they come wrapped in something as ordinary, as quiet, as an itch. Not just any itch, but the kind that lingers, the kind that keeps coming back, the kind that makes you pause mid-thought and wonder, what are you trying to tell me? You see, the older we get, the more our skin becomes a storyteller, one that speaks not just of age, but of inner balance, of blood that moves slower, of organs that tire, of nerves that quietly fray. And in those soft, persistent itches, our body might be offering a clue, an invitation to listen closer. Because what if that itch on your leg isn't just dryness, but a soft red flag waving from deep inside your veins? What if that tingle on your back isn't from a sweater tag, but your liver or kidneys asking gently for help? And what if the sudden urge to scratch your scalp isn't about shampoo at all, but your nervous system quietly unraveling from years of unspoken stress? Today we open a door, not to fear, but to awareness, to the kind of awareness that could help you live not only longer, but more peacefully, more clearly, more connected to the signals your body sends. Because when the skin speaks, it's never just about the surface. It's about the life that pulses beneath it. There's a kind of itch that starts low, just above the ankle, maybe around the calf. It creeps in softly, so softly you might not even notice it the first few times. But then it returns, night after night, quietly, persistently, like a thought you didn't want to think, but couldn't escape. Many dismiss it as nothing, just old skin, winter air, the socks you wore too tight. But what if it wasn't? What if that itch is your body's Morse code and the message is urgent? Doctors, those who study the aging body with reverence and precision, have noticed a pattern. In seniors with persistent itchiness on their lower legs, there's often a silent thief at work: poor circulation, specifically peripheral artery disease, or PAD. This condition doesn't knock loudly. It doesn't announce itself with sirens. It arrives with whispers, with tired legs, with skin that dries too fast, and yes, with itches that lotions can't soothe. You see, the blood that once flowed freely to your limbs now struggles through narrowed vessels. The skin, deprived of oxygen and nutrients, becomes sensitive, thirsty. It begins to signal distress the only way it knows how. Harvard Medical School calls the legs the second heart. Why? Because they're vital to pumping blood back up toward your chest, your brain, your lungs. When the legs slow down, the whole orchestra of your body falters. In one study from the Framingham Heart Study, scientists found that individuals over 70 with poor circulation in their lower limbs had a significantly higher risk of heart complications, even cognitive decline. But here's where the story turns. Let me tell you about Harold and Dennis. Both men were 82, both widowers, both loved their morning routines. Harold walked every morning just around the block. He said it wasn't about exercise. It was about rhythm, breath, clarity. Dennis, on the other hand, had grown still. He spent more time indoors, more time seated, and he had started scratching. Not just once, but often, especially at night. It started with one ankle, then both calves. He tried creams, changed his soap. Nothing helped. He didn't know that beneath that itch, his blood was stalling, his heart working harder, his body sending signals. It wasn't until he collapsed one evening, nothing dramatic, just a dizzy spell by the kitchen counter, that his doctor connected the dots. The itch had been the first sign, and yet, the ending isn't tragic, because once diagnosed, once he listened to the itch, Dennis began to walk again. Slowly at first. He wore compression socks, drank more water, raised his legs when sitting, and the itch, it faded, not overnight, but steadily, like a storm passing. Because the truth is this, your body is not your enemy. It does not wish to punish you. It wishes to warn you, to wake you, to pull you back into conversation. And sometimes that conversation begins with your legs, with an itch that means more than it seems. But what if the itch doesn't come from your legs? What if it comes from somewhere harder to reach and easier to ignore? The upper or mid-back, a place we rarely see, rarely touch, yet a canvas where the body sometimes draws its most urgent whispers. It's the kind of itch that wakes you in the middle of the night, that pulls at you just as you begin to rest. There's no rash, no redness, just that deep, unsettling sensation, like something inside is uneasy, unsettled, unwell. And still, we dismiss it. We change our detergent. We blame the tag on our shirt. We try another lotion, another ointment, another guess. But the truth runs deeper, because when the skin between your shoulder blades begins to itch without reason, it's often not the skin that's speaking, but the organs beneath it, your liver, your kidneys, two of the most loyal, tireless workers in your entire body. They filter your blood, cleanse your system, maintain your inner balance day and night. But when they begin to struggle, silently without pain, they often reach for your skin as their messenger. The medical term is uremic pruritus, a condition linked to kidney dysfunction. It's not well known, but in older adults, it's far from rare. As waste products build up in the bloodstream, they irritate the nerves, and the skin, especially in the back, becomes an outlet for distress. And the liver? When overburdened by medications, poor diet, or simply age, it slows its detoxification. Toxins circulate longer, and your skin begins to feel it before you even realize something's wrong. Let me tell you about Janice, 76, quiet, proud, the kind of woman who never wanted to bother anyone. She lived alone, cared for her garden, and kept her home spotless. But she began to itch. It started on her back, just a small patch. She assumed it was her new detergent, then her bath soap. She tried everything. What she didn't try was asking her body what it was trying to say. Weeks passed. Then came the swelling in her ankles, the fatigue. By the time her daughter insisted on a checkup, her kidney function was dangerously low. That itch, it was the first knock on the door. A door she almost didn't answer. Science has shown chronic, unexplained itching in older adults can be an early sign of internal imbalance. Not always, not in every case, but often enough that it should never be brushed off, because what begins as a sensation on the skin might be a sign that something deeper is being overlooked, something vital, something vulnerable. And the tragedy is not the itching itself. The tragedy is when we cover the symptom and miss the signal. But it doesn't have to end that way. Janice began treatment, changed her diet, drank more water, cut back on salt, reviewed her medications, and slowly, the itching quieted, the nights became gentler, and her peace, once interrupted by that silent torment, returned, bit by bit. Because once again, the body wasn't trying to punish her. It was trying to protect her. And your back, though it may be out of sight, should never be out of mind. And then there are the itches that live closest to the mind, the scalp, the nape of the neck, that tender space just behind the ears. They often arrive without warning, a strange tingle, a persistent urge to scratch, even when nothing is visibly wrong. It's easy to blame the shampoo, the pillowcase, or maybe the winter air. But what if the root of the itch isn't on the surface at all? What if it's coming from a place deeper than skin, from the weight of emotion, from the pressure of thoughts, from a nervous system that's been running too hard, too long? As we grow older, our resilience to stress doesn't vanish. It simply changes form. The worries may no longer be about children crying in the night or juggling a career in a household. Instead, they become quieter, more internal. Will I stay healthy? Will I be a burden? Who will remember me when I'm gone? These thoughts settle beneath the skin, especially around the head, where the nerves are most exposed, most sensitive. And when the body can't release the tension through words or movement, it sometimes chooses another path: itching. Neurologists now recognize this link: a persistent, unexplained scalp itch, especially in older adults, can be a sign of stress-induced nerve hypersensitivity or even an early indicator of neuropathy or cognitive strain. But beyond the science lies something even more human, because behind every itch is a question. What am I still holding on to that I haven't let go? Let me introduce you to Raymond. He was a retired teacher, wise, gentle, always reading. But since his wife passed, he'd stopped going outside, stopped talking to neighbors, stopped listening to music. What he didn't stop was scratching his scalp, his neck, morning, afternoon, evening. He switched shampoos 4 times, even bought a silk pillowcase. Nothing helped. Until one day during a casual visit, his granddaughter asked, "Grandpa, why do you always look like you're thinking something really big?" Raymond paused, and for the first time in months, he cried, not out of weakness, but out of release. That day they went for a walk together, just to the park bench. The next week, he called his old friend. Then he joined a local book club. And slowly, like fog lifting off a quiet field at dawn, the itching faded. Because sometimes the skin doesn't need a new cream. It needs a new way to breathe, a new way to let the heart speak, a new moment of connection to remind the nervous system, you are safe now. You are not alone. The head, after all, doesn't just carry hair. It carries memories, fears, hopes unspoken, and sometimes it asks for help through something as small as a scratch. And then there is the itch that visits the very center of you, the chest, the belly, that soft front where the heart rests, where breath begins, where so much of life has been stored. It is here, where you once cradled children, where you held your breath during hard news, where laughter echoed like bells in youth, that a quiet itch may now rise, without reason, without rash, without mercy. It's subtle at first, a faint irritation across the ribs, a dryness near the navel, a tender prickling across the skin that seems to come and go, like a restless thought you cannot quite name. Most ignore it. Some treat it as sensitive skin, but science and experience suggest another story, a story of hunger. Not for bread or water, but for the hidden nutrients that sustain life beneath the surface. As we age, digestion slows, absorption weakens, and the body, though still standing strong, begins to whisper of what it quietly lacks. Vitamin B12, omega-3s, magnesium, zinc, protein, iron. These are not just numbers on a chart. They are the architects of skin repair, the guardians of the nervous system, the fuel behind a sharp mind and steady hands. When they fade, so does vitality. And sometimes, before we feel weak or foggy, the skin begins to speak. Let me tell you about Elaine. She was elegant, 81, a woman who once cooked for a family of 6 every night. Now she lived alone, often forgetting to eat, finding solace in crackers and soup from a can. She noticed the itch across her chest one evening, a strange sensation, as if the fabric of her blouse had turned to sandpaper. She changed her soap, bought expensive creams. Nothing helped, but what her skin was asking for wasn't on the shelf. It was in the meals she no longer made, the nutrients she forgot her body still needed, the flavors that once connected her to joy, to memory, to the feeling of being alive. A blood test revealed a quiet deficiency, subtle yet significant. Her doctor described it gently. It's not just what you eat, it's what your body can no longer hold on to. And so, Elaine began again, not with feast, but with intention. An egg in the morning, a few almonds, berries with yogurt, a multivitamin, a warm bowl of soup made from scratch. Small things, sacred things. Within weeks, the itch faded, not just from her skin, but from the empty place within her that had long gone unnoticed. Because this part of the body, the chest, the belly, is more than flesh. It is the heartland of life's story. And when it begins to itch, it may not be dryness at all. It may be longing, longing to be nourished, to be cared for, to be remembered, not just by others, but by the self. And now we've come full circle. From the restless legs that whisper of silent strain, to the aching back that echoes the struggle of organs long at work. From the scalp that holds unshed worries, to the chest that yearns not for comfort, but for true nourishment. Each itch, each tingle, each sensation that pulled your attention was never random. It was never small. Because the body does not nag. It nudges, it does not scream, until it has been ignored for far too long. It speaks softly, persistently, like the voice of an old friend who loves you too much to stay silent. Perhaps you've recognized something in these stories. A moment, a sensation, a truth you've quietly carried. If so, I ask you, gently but firmly, will you keep ignoring it, or will you begin listening? Because aging is not a descent, it is a return to self, to stillness, to the honest rhythms of the body. This is not a warning. It is an invitation to walk however slowly, to eat however simply, to breathe, to feel, to pause, to treat every itch not as a nuisance, but as a whisper from the inside, saying, I'm still here. I still matter. Please don't forget me. And as we part ways now, I leave you not with answers, but with a question, one that only you can answer in the quiet moments to come. What is your body trying to say, and are you ready to finally listen? Thank you for sharing this space with me today. Until next time, may your steps be mindful, your breath deep, and your attention tender. So now you've heard the quiet signs. You've walked with me through the empty rooms of fading curiosity, the sharpness where patience once lived, the hollow spaces once filled with shared time, the locked doors of the heart, and finally the absence of touch that says what lips cannot. You've felt it, maybe not just in these words, but in your own story, in a glance that no longer lingers, in a dinner eaten in silence, in the soft ache of wanting to be held, not out of need, but out of love's remembering. And now, what do you do with that knowing? That is the quiet challenge I leave with you. Because clarity is not always a gift we welcome. It doesn't wrap itself in comfort. It doesn't arrive with answers. It arrives with a mirror and asks us gently, sometimes painfully, to look, to stop waiting for what may never return, to stop explaining away the ache, to stop calling loneliness just a phase, but also to begin again, not with someone new necessarily, but with yourself, with your worth, with your longing, with the unwavering truth that you deserve more than tolerated presence. You deserve more than shared chores and unspoken resentment. You deserve a love that still leans in, still asks questions, still reaches for your hand without hesitation. And if you find that the love beside you no longer does that, then let this truth settle like the last note of a song. You are not too much. You are simply waiting too long in the wrong place. So breathe. Breathe through the grief. Breathe through the recognition. And breathe into the quiet courage that lives just beneath your sorrow. You have not been forgotten. You have not disappeared. You are still someone worth returning to, even if the first person who must return is you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, for feeling, for daring to see. This was never just a story, it was a mirror. And maybe, just maybe, a key. I'll see you again soon. Until then, stay curious, stay kind, and never stop choosing yourself.